Overthinking. Do you do it? Many people do. In fact, most people at some point in their lives do. But if you do, why do you? And then how do you stop it? I want to make it a point to start talking about some of the things that absolutely keep people stuck. One of the things that I am really focused on in this space is unity, because I think it's absolutely necessary, especially with the conditions in America. Now, I know a lot of people are not on the unity side. A lot of people want to keep the separation. I think that is detrimental to all. And I explain in different videos why I believe that is. But I am also going to give you some tools on the things that I think keep people stuck so that you can start to consider if you fit into that, where you fit into that, how some of that might be to your detriment that you might not even have considered before, and then how to move out of it. So, if you are an overthinker, then this video is for you. Hi, I'm Zara, and I just told you some of what I do over here, but what I've mostly done for the past 30 years is help people to understand who they are, their individuality, the stuff that the world of psychology has basically kept from you in order to return you back to yourself so that you can start to live your very specific life, not a general life. We didn't come here to live a generalized life. We came to live a specific life. And when you get to understanding that, then you'll start to understand what the division is all about, and then be less susceptible to the tricks they pull to keep us divided, keep us fighting, and not focused on who we are so that we can rise. All right? I know that was a lot, but it was necessary. So here we go. You may have heard these terms, Dr. Rewind or Reverend Rerun. It's ways of being able to talk about how we tend to loop, keep things going over and over in our heads. In order to not continue to have things loop, especially those things that are detrimental or those things that keep you stuck, then it's necessary to dig into them. And being stuck in a loop is often on things of the past. Now, when you stay stuck in a loop of things on the past, what most people don't understand is that they are in that space also creating their future. So your future is coming to you stuck in the past. It's going to show up in the same ways that you are right now. Your current, if you are stuck in stuff in the past, then you are writing your future. Now, many people, and especially on TikTok these days, I tell you, many people want to say that everything is a trauma response. If you're overthinking, then it's something your mama didn't do. She didn't stroke you a particular way. But the reality is, some people have a natural propensity to overthink or to be critical. And it's necessary for you to understand if that is the case for you. And if that is the case for you, then that is something that you will deal with for life. Which means you have to understand your natural makeup so you can start to build in some things to cooperate with it. There is nothing wrong with it. You just have to learn how to cooperate with it. Now, there are others who just get stuck in loops. And the more we practice anything, the better we get at it, even the stuff that works against us. The good news is that you can change it, whether it's part of your makeup or just what has become habit forming for you. And in the same way that looping is habit forming, when you break it, you can create some new, healthier habits. Now, here's how those can show up. One is that you tend to dwell on the past. The other is that you are afraid of the future. Let's first deal with the past. And in this way, we're going to look at 3 offenses that are done to you, events that have happened in your life. Notice I didn't say events that have happened to you, events that have happened in your life. And then the last one could be mistakes that you feel like you've made, but having trouble getting past. Now, offenses that are done to you, this is one that really keeps people stuck, and where they feel justified in holding on to the offense. Now, I told you one of the reasons that I'm doing these videos is because of the racism, the divide in the United States. If the U.S. government can keep you stuck on offenses, then they also can keep you stuck in a vibration, because everything is energy. If you are stuck in the energy of offenses that have been done, and I know that many of them continue, I get that. But if you can get out of, and enough of us can get out of the offense space and really get focused, get forwardly focused, then they can't keep you in those low vibrations. If this is the first time you're hearing this, then this sounds like a bunch of hogwash and it's just not going to fly with you. I get it. All I'm going to ask you to do is keep coming back. Keep listening. Keep listening to some things, even if they are new to you. In fact, more so if they are new to you, because it's the new things that are going to bring you out of the old things. If you're stuck in the quicksand of offenses, what you need is new. Now, let's look at events, because events can keep people stuck. Any kind of happenings of the past. Let's take one that is really, really difficult for people, and it is what they call losses. And particularly in this case, I want to talk about death. Many people get stuck in life because people close to them die. Now, I'm really about to try and be as sensitive as I can about this. And I know for a lot of you, you think, how else would you handle that except with sensitivity? Well, I think that we have some ideas around death that keep us stuck. The moment we are born to die. When we really just be straight about things like this, instead of tiptoeing around it, first of all, we have to ask ourselves, with the premises we hold, then who does it serve? I think that, there are certain industries that it is absolutely to their benefit if you hold these premises. It has started to rain. Y'all, I'm on the rooftop of my building in Colombia, and now I gotta stop. Wait a minute, I'm coming back. All right, I had to shift, but here we go. And I believe that anytime anybody's having a difficult time grasping something, or they can't let something go, or not let go, because that has a bad connotation too, but to release it, to be able to process it and release it, it's because the premise they're operating from is not an advantageous one. So you always got to ask yourself, who does this benefit? For me to believe this and for me to be stuck on this, who does it benefit? And is there another way? Surely there has to be another way. Most people never seek the other way because they get stuck in that loop. Now, very interesting that we are all born to die. We all know that. But how many people get stuck on death? In fact, the world of psychology has really created it to where we can't even really talk about it. You have to be sensitive. It's something that is so delicate. You can't really talk about it because you might wound somebody. Listen, I know that even you listening to that might have created some real angst for you. When my father passed, we were like this, two peas in a pod. So people just automatically assumed that I would be devastated. Well, I got to tell you, before I had a renewed mind and heart about this and looked at the premises, then you would have been right. I would have been absolutely devastated. But when I recognized that, in fact, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was like my 30th birthday. And I remember thinking, if something happens to this man, I will lose my whole mind. I will not be able to carry on. And it was in that moment that I started to investigate those thoughts, that I started to investigate where is this coming from? Why is this even a possibility in my mind when it is a natural thing? When we get hooked up on natural things, that's a problem. Now, since I said I wanted to, really talk about unity, how does this fit in to racism and division? Well, it doesn't really, because that ain't natural. It ain't natural, it ain't normal, but they have made it so normal that when it strikes you, and it strikes you with such a violent, vehement, this is crazy and it ain't right, then yes. So what are the premises? What are we operating from? We've got to look at this thing and say, wait, what is really going on here? There has to be some unnatural crap behind this. And you're right. Okay? So we've got to switch that and be able to get out of the offense of it all and get some new tools to be able to operate with in order to not stay stuck in their loops. Because baby, right now, all they got to do is, they've established the fears and all they got to do is pull the trigger. I'm going to keep saying that until y'all get it, till you get how you are being triggered. And it don't matter what side you're on, black, white, somewhere in between. You have been set up with some triggers. Okay? And then the last one is your own mistakes. It is difficult for people to accept how they have messed up, especially if you've grown beyond it. And you're looking back and going, man, I really wish I could have done that differently. Well, I'm telling you, that's enough to recognize it and wish you could have done it differently. Y'all hear him? Y'all hear him holler? I really do love South America, because this is the kind of stuff that used to happen. I grew up in New Orleans, and the vegetable trucks would be driving and screaming what they have. Well, it's the same thing. They're out with their carts, screaming what they have. I love it. Okay, that's life in Colombia. Now let's apply this to being afraid of your future. Because if you are stuck on your past, you need to be afraid of your future, because you are writing it. Anything you are stuck on, anything that you're continuously focused on, is exactly what you're drawing to you. The law of attraction is real. And everything is energy. So until you transform that energy, convert that into something that is useful and productive, I mean, it's useful as the negative, but productive, then you'll keep getting what you've been getting. You will stay stuck. Now let's look at some reasons you might keep allowing this. One is ignorance. You just don't know any better. So by default, you just keep on allowing your mind to run amok. You've got to get control of that. But it doesn't just happen. By default, it's what most people do. By default, they keep on just reliving stuff. So in order to come out of the ignorance, you have to make a decision. I no longer want to keep reliving this. But then you also have to come to another reality. In some ways, you need to have some form of control. You think by continuing to loop this thing, then somehow you might be able to have some kind of resolution for it. So you're giving your mind something to do. The mind needs something to do. And so if it's still stuck in the past and you haven't given it any new tools, then it is looking for resolution. So it stays there. Here's the other thing you don't recognize. When you stay in that and looking for resolution, and you stay in that trying to find control, what you're actually doing is proving just how out of control you are. Mentally and emotionally, you're out of control. Now let me share with you one of the things that keeps me unstuck. When something happens, I never ever assign it as happening to me. That thing just happened. Things happen. It did not happen to me. When my father transitioned, I never say died, because life still goes on. And if they're not their body and they are spirit, which I believe that we all come here and take on a body form, but that's not who we are. And so his leaving body form didn't mean that he left me. He's just in a different form. And when I learned how to communicate him with that form, then he is still very much so present. So what premise are you operating from? Are you still expecting to see them in that form? You see, nothing happened to me when he decided to transition. That's what we came here to do. You're also just trying to understand it, trying to wrap your brain around this new thing. I mean, this event happened. What will my life be like without that thing? Again, many people have difficulty with that. And again, it boils down to having the tools to be able to accept the things that are difficult. Life is not just about joy. I believe that life is meant to be enjoyed, which is why we need to have as many tools as we can get in our toolbox that are going to benefit us, so that we can move through things quicker and allow things to process through us quicker, so that we can get on with life. And the last reason is, I think that moving on for a lot of people is really a scary thought, because if you had your mind fixed on something, or there was something that was in your life regularly. I'll go back to death. If somebody has transitioned, and what will life be like without that person now? That is too scary of a concept. I don't want that concept. So I will resist this thing as much as I can. And it is more comfortable for me to resist this thing than it is for me to accept it. Accepting it means that I also have to embrace a life that is different than I imagined. And if this life is different than I imagined, I might not like that. I don't know what that looks like. How will I have to expand? Who will I have to become? What difference will this thing make for me? Moving on is a scary concept for many. Moving on to a different thought, a different concept of something is a scary concept for many. If racism is all you've known and being treated poorly or holding on to what has happened in the past, if that is a more comfortable concept than embracing people who who look like the people who have done some things in the past, or some who are still doing some things now, but it's not exactly those people, that is a scary concept. Well, all you need is some tools, that's all. For the white people, same thing. If they have been brought up to believe that black people are just monsters and they're scary people, then they've got to do some changing too. It's all conditioning, is what I'm saying. And the United States has done an amazing job conditioning us all. I want you to notice that I keep saying you do not have the tools. Not that the tools are not available. It's your job to get the tools. Now let's look at some healthy objectives that you can form around all of this. One is to know that you can convert that energy. Whatever that negative energy is that's keeping you in a loop, that's keeping you stuck, you can convert that energy into something more positive. It's really all about modifying the beliefs you hold about it. I say this all the time. Everything is neutral until you give it meaning. So you can modify the meaning you've attached to it. And then ask yourself, why can't I let this go? Why am I holding on to this thing? You know, in a lot of cases, it's a superiority complex. If you can make yourself above something that happened, especially an offense, if you can make yourself above that person, then you can make yourself better than that person. And if you can feel better than that person, then you can make them bad, and you can then be justified in being the better person. Ultimately, you're going to have to separate yourself from what happened. That takes some tools, but you can do it. I'll give you just a few steps right now. Number one, connect to your breath. You know, people forget to breathe. It's one of those automatic things, but you can use it intentionally in difficult times. Connect to your breath. Move away from everything and everybody and just really take deep breaths. Learn breathing techniques, because that will help you to settle yourself in those times that are difficult. Because remember, everything is energy. And if you can calm yourself, collect yourself, then you can get more in control of your thoughts and your emotions. And that is what this is ultimately about. You really want to learn how to get comfortable with things that are uncomfortable, because that really is the only way to begin to process the stuff that happens in your life. Because otherwise, what you do is suppress it and repress it. And I'm telling you, that leads you to looking for ways to numb. And when you're looking for ways to numb, then what healthy thing comes to mind? Nothing. So when you can really learn to address things that are happening in your life in healthy ways, then you learn to process them. And whatever you're focused on and the things that you practice the most, then that is what you get better at. And things will move through you quicker, you move through them quicker, and stuff doesn't get to limit you. And then ultimately, the reason you want to develop these tools is so that you can get to the point that you are the observer of the things that happen in your life. You are not the things that happen. The things that happen are not you. You can separate yourself from all of that, and life can really be wonderful. You can learn to enjoy life no matter what happens in your life, including the difficulties. So here we go. Once you get those tools, it's really about allowing it so that you can release it. So it's not so much of letting go of anything. You don't have to just let stuff go, but you do need to develop the tools to learn how to process stuff, let it move through you, and you move through it. Okay? We got it? All right. Well, from the rooftop of my building in Colombia, it's your life. Choose it just as it is. Own it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Change it. As long as you can breathe and learn, it can get better. Bye for now.